Buongiorno! Just finished this season of Jojo Bizarre Adventure Golden Win.
Now, normally we're the type to read the manga first, but this time we were in it for that golden experience.
And I actually read the manga after we watched the season.
What?
Buckle up, everybody.
Yep, subscribe and tune in every week for our reactions.
This week it's part 5.
Hey!
And we're in it for the long haul. We're going to talk about the whole darn thing.
Yeah.
Sit tight.
Overall.
Unlike our reactions, this is a review. We've collected our thoughts.
Give notes.
We've read all of the Baron von Stroheim comments
Yep.
and collected our ideas together.
Yeah.
Yes, so here we are. Here's the review now for all of you guys asking for a review at this point.
Fair.
So here we go. I think in general, overall, I'm not dissatisfied with the season. I know obviously with our videos, we've had some ups and downs here and there with how we felt. Personally, I think in the beginning, the pacing was really good. I really enjoyed the introduction of all of the villains, the characters, being kind of like pieced together about really how their abilities were, how they worked, being like figuring it all out. And then kind of as we got towards the end, once we got the very first fight with King Crimson, it kind of went downhill for me personally. At that point, I think the pacing was kind of just like all over the place. There wasn't really a good amount of
And
like, I don't know, script in my opinion.
Well, a
really.
little more frantic.
And there's an interesting thought with that. So like for part 5, first of all, we're almost 2 years after part 4, and they actually did change like the animation team up at David Productions a lot.
Okay.
A lot of fresh designers, whole new series director, whole new animation director, and a whole new character designer.
Yeah.
Which
And,
makes sense.
yeah.
Why
And-
it feels different.
Yeah, they had to go do They had to go do the soccer manga.
Yay.
But no, I mean, like, I think that's even evident in the first episodes. The first episodes are fantastic. You get that
Oh my
super
God,
dynamic
yes.
camera
The
work
camera work
with
on
Bruno
the train.
on the subway.
In the
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That spin on the eyeball, I think, is something you can very much see is done in the first episode. And we the King Crimson fight's cool. We definitely get that, replication
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of cool stuff into that. But, I mean, do you guys remember when we got to, like, the Tits and Squallow fight? Like,
Yeah.
that
It
animation
seemed
was turned down a lot.
It didn't have the same eeriness, the same JoJo-ness, the same attitude.
And
Yeah.
just as a whole, I mean, this series, we're not getting the color swaps that we used to get. And again, those like dynamic kind of character framing is different. And that's kind of on the animation company. But Araki himself, I mean, like, look at these characters compared to other JoJo Part characters. He completely decided to change the build
There's
of what
so
his main
much-
characters were.
They're so much
Yeah, but-
smaller. It's like taller
Yes.
and like thin, and it's like what we've seen before. It's like we're so used to these like these big, bulky, like.
Well, I mean, we eased into this decision from part 4.
Yeah,
but, like,
part 4 was a
he
little bit
definitely-
different, but like
he
compared.
definitely made I mean, it's the most apparent, right, with Ponolith and Jotaro, that flashback where he is going for a
God, they're
different
so small.
style. He's going for a different thing. He was very influenced by the whole European area.
Well, and
Yeah.
he was like, well, I'm going to draw the statue of David next to a JoJo character. Shit, I don't know anatomy at all.
Yeah, so he was like, buckle up,
It
there's
was
a lot to
It was a
do.
little loud. He learned
Yeah.
a lot, and he grows, and that's one of our favorite things. And honestly, one of my favorite things that even pertains to manga and anime in the first place is the fact that since it is like a series that updates constantly and that is going, you can see
His growth.
the
Yes.
growth
Yes.
of the artist. So I think it was a good thing.
And that's kind of like the big thing on growth, right? Like Araki went through all of these kind of changes in how he does his art, and I think David Production came in and really polished a lot of that up.
Oh my
Right.
God,
Yeah.
so
As much
pretty.
as he went to these kind of pretty like thinner boys and like these poses and stuff, they're
Right
still kind of lumpy in the manga.
Yeah.
But David Production went and cleaned that up. But David Production, we're used to the anime filling in a lot of what the manga might have been lacking.
Yeah.
And in this season, I think they struggled with it in places, but also did a very good job in places. I think it was much more of a mixed bag than any other season we've gotten before.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like I loved half of the season and I hated the other half.
Yeah,
That's
right.
kind of how
100%.
it just really
So, like,
felt for me.
I know we got a lot of comments a lot of times about like we didn't understand things or we misinterpreted things. And that's fair on us sometimes, just watching it as a group of 4 people. But there's a lot of stuff when I went back and read the whole manga.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that people will just give an entire character dialogue about what they're feeling, what they're thinking,
Yeah, moments.
and what
Yeah.
happened. And that's really missing from the David Production manga.
I mean, the main character.
Yeah,
Giorno.
and that's the thing. Like, Giorno, I feel like, is one of the biggest holes for me in this series. I don't know what the fuck Giorno was thinking for most of the anime.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a dream, but
Well,
you know.
it just seems like most of
Ladybug.
this time, Giorno has just been quiet. He's just kind of on the side. Well,
Yeah, and his stand is also such a
Wild card.
Yes.
wild card kind of got out of the machine thing. But even just reading those first couple of pages of the manga, when he beats up or has Leaky Eye Luca like bash himself in the head,
Yeah.
he walks away with such a fucking smug look on his face in the manga that it's just really not present in the anime. And
Yeah.
I feel like we kept just losing that. the
Right.
I
further
feel like
we went
Giorno,
in.
like, as the series went on, just kind of became a little bit flatter as a character.
Yeah.
Well,
Where I expected him with all of the extra characters to kind of like in any other like manga or anime that you experience, not just JoJo and even JoJo specifically, they get bigger, they get stronger, they get bulkier, they get more aggressive, their emotions get more into it because they're losing more friends along the way. I mean, we lost so many people,
Oh,
and I
God,
feel like
yeah.
Giorno never really got hard.
I
You know what I
See,
mean?
well-
I like that actually.
Well, like for me, it just seems like this entire time, like even before we even met King Crimson, it's just like he's been so flat. But then, like towards the end, like when Gold Experience Requiem comes in, like Giorno is just like much more of a character, and I was like,
Yeah.
where was that in the
got it in
previous
one
episode?
episode.
There was-
Yeah, like where was that in the
definitely-
previous
there was
episode?
definitely some
Giorno,
jumps.
Giorno barely speaks a word that whole time.
Exactly.
Right. There are
Yeah.
definitely parts where like characters, like a dynamic is set in a group, and then characters are leaving, and you're just kind of assuming that all of pieces fit together, and little bits like characters expressing how they think and feel probably would have really helped to transition.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's strange because David Production did go in and add in a lot of stuff that did add a lot of depth. We see a lot of risotto scenes that are kind of flashy. He doesn't just show up out of
Favorite.
nowhere like he does in the manga.
Love
And
risotto.
even just getting the flashbacks of the La Squadra
Yeah.
added so much depth to like Formaggio. I love that
Right.
whole dynamic
and you
they
see,
added.
and that's the thing. It was the juggling of so many characters, which is good. It's ambitious. It's a good. There was some amazing fights and some amazing matchups of some great characters because he was trying to work with so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say even in the manga, this part specifically, the Bruno gang and La Squadra and the Imperial Guard squad, all of them, those were fantastic characters.
yeah,
Those were great.
absolutely.
Incredibly,
my
incredibly
favorite-
deep comparatively.
Yeah, all my
Yeah.
favorite battles were those moments, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so do we have like a favorite fight amongst like ourselves? Like, do we all individually like? I know for myself personally, I'm probably gonna say the airplane was the best fight, just because I feel like we got. Like number one, I loved the whole like writing on the wall.
Okay.
with,
Yeah. Very
with
ominous.
that.
That was
Yeah.
the creepiness.
It was really,
right.
it was really
right.
creepy. It was a stand, especially like with the way that the guy like just died on the tarmac because we were sitting there, we're like, no, like there's something weird about this.
Yeah, it's
What's going on? And it was the first one
that
that
was
really
too
made.
easy.
Yes, it was the first one that really made me think, and then we got to see Trish's full abilities.
For
we
the
got to see, like,
first time.
yeah, so it
And
was
that-
really nice to see that and watch like it all kind of go down.
Well,
and how
it was
it
like
worked.
like a pocket JoJo.
Yeah.
It was like watching the first episode of a JoJo show.
Yes.
Like because you're getting explained the power, the main character Trish, the main character of the
Yeah.
airplane, finding out how to use it, a stand ability that is mysterious.
And like a female stand too.
Well,
like,
yeah,
it was
I mean,
really
about
spicy
frickin'
girl.
time.
And
Damn.
then what I
That's
loved is we got the color swap in that episode.
There was,
Yeah.
there was a little
And
bit of
so
that.
I felt like that episode to me felt so JoJo, especially like with the stand user was just so gross and creepy looking, and the stand itself was really kind of like unexplained until like I kind of like, and I'll admit this, like I really didn't fully understand the way that the stand worked until I read y'all's comments.
Yeah.
And then I really
Rocky
got
did
it.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know about me.
But it felt so JoJo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a little creepiness to it. I will
Yeah.
give it that. My favorite though, out of like all of them, had to be the train man. Like Bruno manhandled that train.
Jeez.
Like he had his squad set up,
Yes.
but when he was slitting himself apart and like unzipping his body, man, and then just the fact that we started jumping on a train. And then that scene with Pesci, and Pesci had like turned into a
Into
JoJo
something.
villain.
Yeah, he
and
finally became a villain.
And actually like confronting Bruno, like who is gonna go on to be throughout the entire like season just a powerhouse. And like
Yeah.
actually Bruno like was even said of him, just like, oh, I sense something very impressive, you
Yes,
know, like
yeah, yes.
and of course it turned to shit, but like at the same time, and then the creepiness of the neck crack. I mean, that the stakes there and
the full head.
Yeah.
Exactly, the full head crack. And the stakes of Pesci going through so much growth
Yes.
and Bruno, like, still dunking on him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still saying bye-bye. Like,
Arrivederci.
exactly. not
God,
having none of
best
that. And the animation we were talking about, at that point, man,
It was fantastic,
The
yeah.
sun going down there, like
Oh my
on their
God.
standoff with the fishing rod, it looked like a
Samurai sword.
like a high
Yeah.
noon
Yeah.
thing or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. It
Duel
was
ready to go
it
down.
was
Yes.
set pretty good for me. I like that one.
So mine was definitely Tits and Squallow and Baby Narancia. So
My baby boy.
So I've loved Narancia throughout this entire season. Like, one, he's like the youngest, he's the most immature of everyone. But like with scenes like this, it's like he knows if he sees a stand or like if he is set in a situation, then he has to figure it out. Like when he first like noticed the stands, like the rest of the crew was just like, Narancia, what's going on? He's like, oh, it's nothing, don't come near, like I'll handle it myself. But then like with these two powerful and very attractive and passionate, very passionate
Joe
co-worker,
Bros.
thank you,
Joe
Rose.
Lovers.
Yes, but he was just like, he took them both out, which is just
I know.
surprising. The
Monster.
youngest of the crew, and he's like, I got this. I mean, Narancia was the only person who took out like half of the
Yeah,
crew in the
he had a
entire
big rap
season.
sheet.
Yeah,
I feel like Narancia was like the #1 like murderer on the team.
Yes,
he was
he
a real
was.
gangster.
There was one of my favorite lines in the whole series
Starting young.
is when he was fighting Tiny Feet and Fugo or someone says, yeah, I don't really see Narancia losing though.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
like,
Speaking of that fight, that is my favorite
Yeah?
one.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
Narancia and Formaggio. For me, it's you know, your fight like you were talking about. It's very much in that Jojo kind of chess match thing, not that like direct fight, kind of like what Pesci ended
Yeah.
up having to be.
Yeah.
But the Formaggio one for me takes it to that level of this is what made this season different.
Yeah.
It's that creepiness and that gore. It wasn't like in part 3 when we had like Polnareff start to turn into a child, like, oh, he's just kind of helpless
Yeah.
in the face of an adult man
Yeah.
in a JoJo series who's an absolute like tank.
Yeah.
It was like, no, this is to a point where like preternatural beasts can just feed on you.
yeah.
And it,
The,
like,
the
it just-
sheer
it was so-
vulnerability.
Yeah.
It was incredibly exciting, but also incredibly different from any of the other seasons I had felt like.
Yeah.
And the
before.
scale
Absolutely.
and the weirdness, that's
Yeah,
really weird.
creepy.
And there's a lot of good fights. I mean, the biggest issue that I had though with all of the battles, I mean, was the final battle. I just Diablo is personally out of all the villains. I mean, Cars isn't very good in my opinion, but like Diablo is not. I wasn't happy with him. I wasn't happy with how he turned out, and it was. I think for me, it was a lack of It was really just a lack of personality built into the character.
Yeah.
And I understand, right? You know, he is supposed to be mysterious at the start. And when I asked, I think I asked you
Yeah.
guys, like, what would you think? What would you describe Diablo as? I mean, you said cocky.
I did say cocky.
You know, and I get that from his first sort of like appearance, but I wouldn't even say he's a third or half as cocky as say like Dio.
Well, especially because I mean,
No.
he's literally hiding inside of another person
For the
like a
entire
coward
time.
the entire time.
Yeah.
Which can be thematic, but like I mean, for me personally, the most character I got of Diavolo was. His name is Diablo, and that means devil, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like we really
Yeah.
leaned on symbolism having to represent a lot of
Right.
him.
Yeah.
His stand being named King Crimson literally told me more about him than anything I ever
Yeah.
actually witnessed. And I don't need like, and that's the thing. I felt like I was just being told he was really bad and evil,
Right.
not really kind of
Shown.
witnessing it.
And I
Yeah.
understand too, like there was, because you know Kira is my favorite villain, so I understand the concept of like, oh no, he's actually really careful.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
really
Yeah.
bad.
I don't mind that, but he's the gang boss.
Yeah.
But then he's scared of Chocolata.
Right,
and, like,
and it's
I
there
don't know.
wasn't enough consistency, and there were the problem was this Doppio was such a perfect. Like I get
love
it.
Doppio.
Aw.
I love Doppio.
His personality was his split personality.
Yeah.
But the fact that Doppio just dies and doesn't really get defined much as well.
No,
other
Doppio
than-
got more of an interesting character than Diavolo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting, and I think what the majority of my issues with Diablo is, we only really see him physically once. And
Like an
that's
episode or two, that's
and
really
that's
it.
when he murders a cripple in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And we only really get to see him fight like that. And then the next time we see him as a full person
He's
is when
in
Bruno
Bruno,
inhibited in his
which
body.
makes-
Yeah, and
so
that's,
for that,
again,
we
the
never
end.
Yeah.
we
The end.
never really get to see Diablo. And so when we did get the little flashes,
Yeah.
so when we saw like him in the alley and him here, his body would grow 10 times the size. And
It's
but
just-
when we saw his real body,
It wasn't-
was
we didn't get the same
size
thing.
as Doppio.
Which-
it was strange. And again,
was
it's
weird.
the ending is really, that's where they could have sold it, and that's my issue with.
He wasn't
with
menacing.
the final fight was choppy. It was a little weird, especially with the state change. I get it. What happened was this idea of Requiem, this idea of stands evolving.
Right.
That whole concept was the final boss.
Yeah,
that
right.
decided
Which
to
is cool.
overshadow.
Yeah.
That
Which
is
decided to
super
overshadow
cool.
everything, and I liked it. However, Diablo versus Giorno didn't really happen, and I get it. But like when fate is supposed to kind of be a concept, and if Giorno is supposed to be able to be fighting fate, I mean, I felt like their fight should have been a little bit more. Just involved.
Like I feel like a lot of, again, like kind of like back to the symbolism. Like I feel like a lot of the symbolism was on the names and the poses,
Yeah.
and not on really like what fate meant. I mean, there's a lot of extra crap really thrown in at the end there.
Yeah.
The people mutating into things that goes
That-
nowhere.
that's-
It doesn't go anywhere in the
explain
manga.
anything.
Again,
It goes
what
more
does-
places in the anime than it even did in the manga.
What it
like-
does is it
Yeah.
serves as more information about the Requiem, about the effect.
Yeah.
But they
that's-
didn't even really go into Requiem,
Yeah,
which
but
I'm
the-
assuming is maybe bigger in part 6.
We'll see.
We
we'll
got
see.
like what 4 or 5 episodes about Requiem in general.
and,
that
and then
was
it got
it.
shut
And it
down.
was, it was all leading up. Like we've been like teased about this arrow since the beginning, the very first episode.
Yeah.
And yet we
Since
got
part 3,
like
really.
5 or 6 episodes about the
It's a
arrow
power
in
up.
general.
And the thing is, and the power up of Giorno's stand, for me, the biggest issue was the direct counter. The direct
Yeah.
count, and I understand this isn't the same kind of fight as other JoJo fights,
Which
but
is fine.
other JoJo villain, like one of my favorite parts about the Kira and Josuke sort of standoff at the end there is that Kira gets his ass beat and then changes strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt that was normal for the character. I felt that was exchanged. Kira in part 4 was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try to fight Josuke. Oh, I can't fight Josuke.
Here-
I'm gonna do something else."
And with Jotaro and Dio, I mean, it's seeing a mortal human rise to the level of an immortal
Yeah,
vampire and match him
yeah.
toe to toe.
I think my thing.
several times.
Yes.
I think my biggest thing is just like with King Crimson, like when we first was introduced to him, like with him and Bruno, he was always hiding beside something. But then when he finally revealed himself, he's open, he's vulnerable, so he has nowhere to hide. So I think
his-
that was his downfall.
His strength, exactly.
Yeah,
his
that was his
strength-
complete downfall.
His strength was his
Him hiding
hiddenness,
behind something.
his
But I
think
bareness,
that's
and
what's-
that's just. It's the thing is, I don't like it because Kira had the same concept and was still a stronger character.
Yeah.
Kira's
Yeah.
another one of Kira's strengths was his hiding. I'm
I
dropping
think
on
the fate just wasn't as persuasive for me personally too, just because as much as some people would say that, you know, King Crimson either changing fate or Golden Experience changed fate, I really feel like you could argue both sides for that. Like,
Yeah.
is King Crimson really the one that's like changing fate every time he uses his power?
Or-
did Golden
Yeah.
Experience change fate because of the Requiem arrow?
Or did Mista
Or
change
is,
the
like,
fate?
Mista
or-
changed the
like,
fate.
Yeah.
And then like, is fate mutable? If fate is mutable, then fate isn't fate,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's
I
kind of a.
don't mind its presence.
Right.
I'm not shook by its effect.
Yeah,
on
and that
Kira.
was their whole
No.
thing. I think, like, again, we had a huge, you know, kind of, I think, misunderstanding with how we felt about those last 2 episodes, the Rolling Stones arc. We love the Rolling Stones arc.
Yeah, it was
I
fun
think
episode.
as a
Yeah.
group,
It just wasn't in the right
it was about
place.
placement,
Yes,
right? And
exactly. Like if that would have been the episode right smack dab in the middle, right before we got the newest opening, I would have been super happy with it.
Yeah, like
because
once we
got a
had like
nice
all the
little
games and
recap.
everything.
And I
We're
get
good
it.
to
That's
go,
not
but
where
it
it
just-
was written, and I
And
understand.
that's fine.
Like,
So
I just
actually-
wish we would have had a better ending in general.
I do have a question. Is that still like in the placement? Like they defeat the Diablo, and then is it
yeah,
like a fight?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Okay,
it's in
so
the
they
manga?
just
Absolutely the way it's in the
continued
manga.
on then.
Still, like, but like, one of our larger problems, even with you know, kind of going back to production side, we know that things get kind of sloppy at the end. Even the Diavolo fight, like, as cool as the animation is, it's an effect that was used in the last like 6 openings of Part 4. Like,
Yes.
and it's to a decreased level, I would even say. I think the direction really just didn't come in and kind of amp that up for us. But
Yeah.
on the manga side, the manga didn't take a 2-week break and then release like
Yeah, again,
a
That-
40
I-
That's,
chapter.
just,
What
that's
do you-
what felt so wrong.
What- and
is that it
that's
just felt like
not-
such a
And
build up.
I think that's just
enough.
unfortunate. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even disslike them for it. I'm just like, that turned out kind of shitty.
We're not
Yeah.
discounting the series about it, but like our experience. That's why in our reaction we were so like, "Whoa, man, that was kind of right in the jaw."
Yeah,
there.
and legitimately, that's how we felt about it.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I think
it was
it's-
shitty.
I think the biggest thing that we get, and like especially like what we see in the comments, is like a lot of people are explaining these things and they're like a little upset that we don't get it. It's like we literally say it every time in the opening. We just don't read the manga. I think like since we started watching JoJo, we've never even read the manga once.
No.
Like since part one,
Yeah.
we just continually watch the anime.
and
we're
you
like,
read it to get the perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like, that's the thing. Like, as much as, like, as negative as some of the comments were, like, I also did kind of want to see what you guys were talking about, and I see that there's some difference there, and I see why your perception would be different. But that doesn't change the fact that they skipped 3 weeks and had a 2-hour-long
Right.
episode,
Yeah.
and that it was kind of sloppy. And I don't even just mean like those episodes were sloppy or that planning was sloppy. I mean the series in general, the way it was adapted compared to how we've seen other JoJo parts get
Yeah.
adapted.
Right.
There was a lot
Yeah.
more wiggle room, and we've talked about this in several videos before about where the animation industry is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are suffering. Like,
They're
it's
working
suffering hard.
hard.
And it's coming through
No
the art
breaks.
form, and even us in a weekly, shonen anime are recognizing
And that's
it.
no one's fault other than
No,
the
like,
animation
yeah.
teams themselves. Like
Exactly.
they just don't
Yeah.
have enough time to get the work done that they need.
Well,
but
it's
I mean,
the
one
industry.
thing.
It's the industry,
in
and
Japan.
people have to
Yeah.
learn, and I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing. I mean,
But
we
we
are
got-
so hype on JoJo.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing. We did all the episodes because we love it. I mean, there was plenty, a huge amount to be
We love
excited
this
for.
season.
I
We
think
do.
My favorite character out of all of this, and a great example to, again, my favorite part about manga in general is. I opened this book just to make a joke before this,
Yeah.
and it was like characters can change and be erased and be different, and it's literally I love Bruno because you know that he was gonna kill him, and then he decided not to.
Yeah.
In the writing process.
And then 100 chapters later, wrote a whole manga about, or a whole 2 chapters about why that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And we love Araki for
Yeah.
that. I love it.
Absolutely.
Like,
Because we got more Bruno, because Bruno was worth it, because he was the character that grew and felt like the lifeline for this whole series, right?
yeah,
He brought the gang
absolutely.
together. He had the investment. He cared about his city.
He had the right pose.
I mean,
yeah.
we call the Mama
Mama
Bruno
Bruno.
a lot
Mama
because
Bruno,
he
yeah.
had this affection for the characters in the
his
group
team.
that Giorno never expressed.
Yeah.
And,
You
and that's
know.
the thing on like Araki's. I mean, Araki definitively has a fast on his writing style. We're not debating that.
Yeah.
That's exactly how he writes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the thing with Fugo, everybody loves to tell us in the comments about how like, well, originally like he wrote Fugo because he was gonna do this like purple haze feedback thing, but it's like no. But do you guys not realize like as much as like we make fun of him writing Fugo out of the series because
He's a throwaway
he
character.
was
Yeah.
well like it was just like I don't know how to write that stand. But do you know how much it enhanced the story that one of the
Right.
gang did not join them? Do you know how much more important
That's
and
intense.
badass that made all
Yeah.
of the other characters when
Exactly.
they walked onto that boat with
Yeah.
Bruno?
Including
Fugo's-
Narancia.
Yeah.
Fugo's there's a reason that Dave Production put Mista standing up in those last 2
Yeah.
Rolling Stone episodes and Fugo like on
Crawling
the
out of
ground.
the car.
Yeah,
like,
he knows.
because he bitched out, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
that is something that he decided like again, he couldn't handle that many characters
It's a
and he
rant,
didn't
yeah.
want to have to. So he edited and that's the
and made a
beautiful
better
thing.
decision.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
The story
Which
was
is
better
smart,
for it
which
in
is
every
smart.
way.
Yeah.
I liked that we got characters killed off as we went on throughout the storyline because it let us focus in on obviously the ones that were really important
Right.
and the ones that like mattered in the overall storyline
Yeah.
too. So
And for you, who mattered the most?
for me, always my baby boy Narancia.
R.I.P. Narancia.
Like I think that like with Narancia specifically, like his stand alone, I personally think was probably one of the most powerful stands in the group.
Yes,
He
100%.
like the radar technology that he had, the way that he was able to fully control
Yeah.
They
Little
used,
Bomber.
They used that
like-
so much. It just put pressure.
Yeah, I
because
think
Narancia's
what-
like they're up there, they're over there. I know this.
I think
know
what like
this.
solidified Narancia for me as a character was like initially I was like, oh my god, this annoying like little kid is on the team, and I was like, I feel like he's just like someone's cousin that's like, oh yeah, little Johnny's got to come along, you know, he's the boss's cousin, he's got to work.
He's got
for
the
him.
runt complex.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like that's how I felt Narancia kind of was in the group until we got that first episode with the car when he was buying the stuff for Trish and
Oh, yeah.
he
Little
lost his
Yeah.
shit on that car and on what was that guy's name?
Formaggio.
On
Yeah,
Formaggio.
yeah.
And I was like, oh man, this guy is like a force to be reckoned with. I'm excited to see where he like continues on in the crew, and then when he
And then
is
the
standing
scene-
there with Fugo not making the decision of whether or not to go on the boat, and he swam his way to that
Exactly.
boat, I was like, my boy!
They show the struggle, and that's
Yeah.
a beautiful part about
And I
the
Him and
character.
Abakio.
Oh my god, him and Abakio. Oh
the
my god.
feel
like,
that he has for like
yeah, like his
God.
youthful presence in the team I thought was really important. I thought his stand ability and I thought his moral and his decisions were really, really important in moving along the storyline of like, okay, like this is really dangerous, but Naranja's coming.
Yes.
And I loved it. Like, and then we got the worst death possible
Oh
for
my
him.
gosh.
And I cried. I was like, oh,
poor baby Naranja.
yeah, I thought he really like throughout like the entire season, like he was someone who stayed consistent for me personally that I loved for sure. What about you?
My best boy, Mista. So first off, shout out to the best outfit in the crew. I don't care what
Yeah,
anybody
that's
says.
true.
Them
Yeah.
like
100%.
tiger
He
leggings
matched.
and everything.
He had a look he was going for, and he nailed it.
I
He's like a
love
Japanese cowboy.
I love
Loved
how
it.
he immediately like looked at Jordan. He was like, "I'm gonna be that boy's bitch." Like he's been there to the very end, the ride or die. But like the way how Mista approaches a fight, like literally every battle, he's so careful. Like with all Sex Pistols, I love
Careful. Well, he did shoot himself a couple times.
Hey, he still survived compared to anybody else. He still survived till the very end. He
He's
still
a monster.
survived.
He's a
But it's
monster.
just like
And he's getting laid by Trish. So.
he's getting laid by both of them. But anywho, just playing chess, like moving
Yeah.
the pieces and everything, just like going, like literally thinking everything through, and then just always coming through in the end. And I'm just like, Mista, you're my favorite.
And his stand and way of employing his stand was so different from
Also,
anything
his
else.
stands had so much personality. I loved Sex
I love the
Pistols.
bullets.
I
I
love
love
3 and
them.
5's
I
like
think-
interaction with each other. Like literally, like Mista being like a mother to these things. I was like,
Feeding,
this is
feeding
yeah,
the
literally
stand.
feeding them.
That
Numbas
was-
V. I'm like,
That
oh.
was insane,
Yeah.
and like pulling his sort of like neurosis into it. I definitely though like one of the best moments for me of Mista was when he was like going in on arts and crafts, and like he pulled his gun out like in a like a full
yeah.
Murlago of and everyone it's like, what, you never seen one of these before?
Yeah.
Like he's just like, I'm a gangster, remember? Like, and that moment characterized him so well
100%.
Yeah.
of just like, I have a fucking gun, dude.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
beautiful.
What would you say your favorite?
So my favorite stand user in this season was the most powerful one, Coco Jumbo.
Yes.
I mean,
Utility stand.
the idea of like, I mean, we had Pet Shop, which was a great episode and everything,
Yeah.
but having a turtle be part of the gang.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
beginning
God.
to end.
It's just it becomes like an anchor too. Like like he was a literal representation of we got to be careful with the plot here. Like, and we're
Yes.
gonna pass it like a football. It also becoming like the thing that like Polnareff inhabits, which I love Polnareff.
love.
Like,
Yes.
it became this just beautiful thing, and again, it's something we hadn't seen before.
Right.
Yeah.
And it
He's
was a
even, like,
very clever
It's
writing
clever.
strategy, so we
So
didn't have to
smart. To
draw.
show everybody,
So we didn't have
yeah.
to draw the characters all the
And
time.
even,
Yeah.
even bizarre things, like I think one of the other things that like again David Productions I'm not disappointed on, but I could feel missing like with this new team was I remember like the kebab haggling scene in part 3. That to me is peak JoJo.
Yeah, it's pretty
Where I'm like,
fair.
no, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Like what are we doing?
Yeah.
Them having the lines about like, well, turtles are immortal and like stuff like that to me is like, what are we?
Why do you guys are turtle?
What are
Like
we even
Mista-
doing
Mista
out here
rubbing the
talking
wall.
about a turtle?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, why are we out here? And the turtle to me like defines like, no, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Ghost Dad, same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has the
Coco Jumbo
it
is
was
Ghost
led-
Dad in
well,
the
Coco
season.
Jumbo did lead to the Ghost Dad of the season.
Yeah.
Which was Paul
Oh,
inhabiting him. So
100%.
Exactly. So
So
that's-
even like at the end had Coco Jumbo on the table,
Yeah.
right where I don't know, Joseph, Giorno's getting like coronated or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah, he-
beautiful.
Getting his fingies kissed.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he got his own little ring.
Next
Yeah.
to the zipper and the
So
bottle and the fire
speaking
cup.
of laurels, where would you put this season in comparison to the other JoJo seasons that we've seen so far?
I would say in the middle.
Yeah, that was
Like the third best JoJo.
yeah. For me, I'm there too. I'm sort of in the middle. Like I have my lows and highs, but it's
Mine's
there.
at fourth. I mean, I think this season had some really high highs, but it also had some just kind of disappointing, especially for
Yeah.
me, some disappointing lows.
Yeah.
I feel like
yeah.
I feel like the season for me just like fell flat. Like for me personally, I think this is just more towards the bottom of my list, just simply because I feel like I didn't feel JoJo as much.
Yeah.
Right.
It didn't feel as bizarre.
No,
And that's what I look for
Well,
because I feel like this series felt more like any other anime, where for
And
me
I'm
JoJo always
completely with
stands
you on
out
that, yeah.
as a completely weird ass
that.
fucking anime.
Yeah.
The start was super weird, but
Yeah.
it did get to sort of a normalcy.
And that's the same thing of like how the manga stories compare to each other, because like again, the reason we don't read the manga and we watch the anime is because of what they've done with this manga to make it be so transcendent
Yeah.
as a piece of anime. Every season of JoJo is an absolute masterpiece.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
There's
Including
no
this
argument
one.
Yes,
that.
like literally the entire like this summer, winter, all of this like past season, I've always recommend people you need to see JoJo.
Yeah,
you need to see part 5.
compared to any other anime,
Yeah.
JoJo
But-
always.
JoJo's
But that
always
doesn't.
better.
Yeah.
That does like I mean you can rank Da Vinci's paintings like it's,
Yeah,
it's- we do it.
exactly.
Everybody
David,
does it.
literally.
Like, it's,
Like I think the
it's
thing,
easy.
I think the thing with this part is just like yes, there's nice good storytelling, there's amazing characters, but there's a lot more that we just see with just like a story. We look at like animation, we see like where it's going. Like we agree, like in the beginning.
Yeah, we all have different expertise.
So much better,
Yeah.
but then like towards the end of the season, it just kind of fell flat a
Yeah.
little bit.
different. So I'd say yeah,
That's
like
what it
8
is.
out of 10.
Yeah,
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 I give it
8 out of 10. It's still JoJo.
It's still JoJo.
I still love
It's
it.
still in our top tier of what we want to do. Again, it's still a masterpiece.
Yeah.
We did 40 plus episodes on
That's
this
true.
for
Yeah.
a reason.
We
love it,
suffered
guys.
40 plus episodes of recording this, putting it up, having you guys bitch us out. Keep doing it anyway.
We like cat videos.
We love the JoJo.
Yeah.
Like, don't get us
It's
wrong.
always
at all.
worth it.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, guys, because we are absolutely doing a Guess That Stand for.
Oh yeah!
part six.
Hey!
We're gonna do it maybe a little tipsy, we'll see how we feel. But honestly,
We've got years before part. We'll never remember it.
Yeah.
remember
Not
We
shit.
don't pay attention anyway, guys. You know that.
Go back and watch our other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys, stay tuned, and we will catch you next time.
眠れない